When it comes down to building a brand, right, like I said, within the phases framework, strategic partnerships are incredibly important. Being able to not only have a level of borrowed credibility, but then being able to mutually benefit from a collaborative effort for you and someone else, it will pay dividends over time, right? So I'm a big believer in that. However, for this video, I just wanted to talk about sort of the most impactful way for you to build those strategic partnerships, right? Because there's so many sort of advice online in terms of how you network, how you get yourself out there, how you put yourself in front of, people who are big in the game themselves, right? But in my humble opinion, I feel that we are doing ourselves a disservice when we are looking to do strategic partnerships or to engage in the idea of strategic partnerships with people that we just look at and we see them as like up there, right? We see them as someone who's not only credible, not only famous, but they have a immense network of people, right? But then is sort of a thing where you assume if you collaborate with them or if you work with them, then you will be able to gain from their level of, or you can use their name for clout, really and truly, because that's what it is. And I disagree. I don't feel that in the slightest that you should be thinking as a strategic partnership, let me just look at connecting with the hottest or most famous person I can find and then use their name as clout to then say, because I've collaborated with them, now that makes me such a credible person. Because sometimes that doesn't even work, right? We think, oh, if I align myself with someone who's already big in the game and famous as it stands, then it would work. But that is a whole new ball game in terms of how you even enter that sort of arena of connecting with those sort of people. Let's argue and use the term elites, right? Let's just use that for example's sake. But when it comes down to brand building and building a brand that ultimately lasts forever, because let's face it, we want to build a brand that has that level of longevity, it has that legacy feel to it, because the whole journey is documented, is written, right? Everyone knows the story. They know how you got from A to B, right? They know how you were in one position, how you got to your current position, and where you're looking to go later down the line. And then that's why I believe when it comes down to networking and building those strategic partnerships, it is in your best interest for you to learn to network horizontally, right? As opposed to vertically, right? And for those who don't know the difference, horizontal is this way. Going vertical is this way, right? I should have got my writing tablet for this one. But anyway, when you are networking, I think it's important for you to develop those strategic partnerships and collaborate with as many people as you can from a horizontal perspective, more so than vertical. And when you think of it like that, I believe it makes perfect sense, but I'm going to explain to you why I believe it makes perfect sense. Because you're in the field with them, right? It's like when you are in the workplace, let's argue. When you're in the workplace and you start off as, let's say, a graduate trainee, I'm going to use my sort of experiences as an example. You start off as a graduate trainee. Everyone is in the same position. Everyone is hungry and determined to make this thing work, right? They want to make this a success. And it makes the most sense for you to collaborate with people who are very much in the same zone as you, right? And when I mean the same zone, it has nothing to do with levels of credibility or how famous they are or popular. It doesn't matter about that. It matters within the time frame of knowing each other and then sort of what level. And, let's be real. There's going to be people that you connect with where you have an understanding of sort of where they are in their journey. They could be at an early stage, maybe 1 to 3 years within doing what they're doing, or they could be more sort of experienced, that they could have been doing these things for a decade plus, right? So with that in mind, would it not make sense to collaborate with people who are on the same journey with you, are on the same upward trajectory, just as much as you, because that's where the sort of essence of strategic partnerships come from. It aligns and it makes sense because it's not something that is deemed as faking it or forcing it or doing the most, because you're doing it alongside people who are on the same journey as you. They're on the same destination as you. Because when you do it like that, you grow together. You grow together and you get to the stage where you see the growth on both sides. And I'm not saying that you have to purposely do it in mind for it to have mutual benefits later down the line. But when you think of it like that and you realize that you collaborated with someone unaware of their future, no one knows what's going to happen, right? We can't dictate what the future holds for us. However, you can only assume if someone has that same level of intensity, that same determination, and that same desire to get to that level, to get to their destination, wherever that destination looks like, they will get there. And then when they are there, they will never forget the time when you were there supporting them and checking for them and collaborating with them and working with them on certain bits during a time where there was no one really checking for them like that. And when it comes down to business, we have to think of business as a long-term game. Hey, what's that beeping? Apologies. I don't know what's going on outside. But when it comes down to building a business, we need to treat that as a long-term game. When it comes down to building a brand, we need to treat that as a long-term game. And that means that we need to be focused on just working together. And like I said, it's not a solo effort. We can't build a revenue generating brand by ourselves. Strategic partnerships is the essence of what it means to build a brand, right? To get to that level of brand authority is incredibly important. So with that in mind, of course, reach for the stars, connect with people who you didn't necessarily feel that you were able to connect with, right? Or you just didn't feel that you was at the right level, or whatever the case, whatever's in your head at the time, because it then goes to show that whatever you are working on and whatever you are doing, there are ways where you can attract and align yourselves with people who have been in the game decades on, who's still in the game, who can effectively help you down the line, right? But don't let that be your only strategy or your only way of thinking that you need to collaborate with people. Because when it comes down to those times when you need to work with people within a particular time frame or within a particular time that you are building together, that is what makes building a brand count, in my opinion. I think that is what makes the idea of building a brand worth it, because you see the development and the growth of your peers, right? We need to work together with our peers in order to build and get to a level where we're trying to get to. And ultimately, when it comes down to that, no matter what industry they're in, you know that they are able to play a part in your life, no matter what, in various different ways. But you just don't know that yet because you just haven't thought to yourself, let me network horizontally and let me connect with the people that are within my remit, within my network and my circle, rather than focusing solely on those who are sort of at a whole new level in their sort of life and their brand as well. So it was just something that I just thought about, to be fair. And then the idea of people always wanting to chase the highest point and not necessarily look around them and see all the talent, all the sort of future success stories, all the future award-winning people within their remit. They're not necessarily paying attention to that. And for this video, I just want you to pay attention to that. So when you build and when you look to collaborate in whatever form, whatever that looks like, before you start looking at the higher ups in terms of what they're doing, think about who are the people within your remit, your immediate circle, or even your outer circle of people, your peers, right? Your industry peers. Who are those people that you can collaborate with and you can help in the process of what you're doing? Because guaranteed, if you are very much forthcoming with helping at this stage, when it returns tenfold in the time that you're developing and growing, you're going to then understand why strategic partnerships are incredibly important when you focus more horizontally than vertically, right? So that's it for me in this video. If this video helped, please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Peace out. Look after yourself.